حق بازی یه چند وقتی انسان میتواند یه کاری رو پیش ببرد، ولی این کار دائمی نمیتواند باشد. چنته هر کسی که تو خالی باشد بالاخره معلوم شد.
Good day, everyone. Welcome to episode 88 of Chanteh podcast. Today's guest is someone who made a decision that cost him his career, but at the same time redefined his mission. Nico Lagan spent over a decade as a sales engineer before walking away from it all after refusing to comply with COVID-era mandates. Instead of stepping back, he stepped forward, building online presence that now reaches millions of Canadians every month. But uh, here is where it gets interesting. After years of exposing problems, Nico started asking a harder question: is awareness enough, or do we need a real solution? That solution led him to co-found the political Orphan, the movement aimed at organizing Canadians from the ground up, community by community. Today we are going to go beyond the headline and get into something more serious. What actually went wrong in Canada? This is the main question, and this is everybody's asking this question. And more importantly, what, if anything, can realistically fix it? So, thank you for coming to my show, Nico. It's my pleasure to have you in my show. Uh, tell me about your story. Tell me about your story. What I know you have such interesting story. You've been living in the woods. You're advocating for freedom in Canada. You're one of the few people that get obtain a lot of attention and respect. Yeah, explain to us.
I don't know about the respect part because most people don't like me because I do not walk the political line, right? I'm hated by the so-called liberals and the so-called conservatives in Canada because I will not walk the political line, which is always a problem for them. But you know, man, until 2020, I was just a regular dude working as a sales engineer. I wore a suit every day and I did customer calls. That's all I did. I took very technical principles and I put them in layman's terms, trying to sell $1 million solutions to high-end customers like C-suites, CEOs, CFOs. So I was just a technical sales guy, doing my own thing, saving money, investing money, and just doing what the average Canadian was doing. And I was teaching martial art on the side as well because I come from a martial art background. I've been in it for about 20 years. So I was coaching some fighters, some amateur fighters, and COVID happened. I gave a call to one of my doctor buddies and a friend of mine that's a nurse, and I asked them, I'm like, what the hell is this? Both told me the same thing. This is something that we've been dealing with for months already, and it's not going anywhere, so you better learn to live with it. I've been a conspiracy theorist my whole life, so when I saw that, I'm like, yeah, okay, there we go. This is the test I was expecting. So back in March 2020, I knew this was all bull. I knew this was all a lie. And our companies started or stopped doing face-to-face meetings because it was so dangerous. You could die from COVID, right? And that's sarcastic. Hopefully that translates that I'm being very, very sarcastic right now. But
Yeah.
they stopped the face-to-face meetings. So we started doing the Zoom calls. I got rid of my place in the city in Montreal, and I just moved to an investment house that was on Airbnb, literally log house, top of a mountain in the middle of the woods. And I stayed there for about 2.5 years. I would say that about 1.5 years in, I was told that I had to take the vaccine. I refused, and then I basically left my job and it's not a job, it's a career. It had taken me a long time to get there. Very, very well paid job. And yeah, I lost it for knowing that my body was healthy enough to fight a little cold instead of believing the lies. And when I made that decision, I sat down, I took a piece of paper, I split it down the middle. I literally said, what are my skills? What are transferable skills? And what can I do with those skills? And I figured that creating content made sense. And that's what I've been doing ever since.
That's absolutely crazy. Because I remember back then during COVID times, there were 20, and it came up in Joe Rogan's show. There were 20 claims that people like you they made, and you guys made fun of. They say, "Oh, these are crazy conspiracies." Oh, but every single one of those theories they turned out to be true.
You know the difference between a conspiracy theory and the truth?
Tell me
About 6 months.
about 6 months. That I recall.
So no, but this is actually true because I got ridiculed. My family stopped talking to me. I don't have a good. I never had the greatest of relationships with my family because I'm so outspoken. The way I am online, I'm worse in real life. I try to tone. I've been I've been banned so many times that I've learned how to say things without having to say them,
Right.
and it tends to hit harder in content either way. But what you see on camera is who I am. I'm just that type of asshole in real life. So I don't have a good relationship with my family. And, you know, one of the comments that my mom made during COVID is that I deserve to lose my job for not getting vaccinated. That's my mother we're talking about here. So, of course, the average individual did not care about me losing my career because I knew that my body was healthy because I didn't treat it like a dumpster. You know, and that's the problem. If you look at the research now, it was something like 99.5% of the people that died from COVID had 3 comorbidities. They were not healthy people in the first place. The next thing they caught would have probably done the job. So that's the reality of COVID. But I knew this in 2020. If you treat your body with the respect that it deserves, it will have a strong immune system. That doesn't mean you're not going to get sick. You are going to get sick, but your body's going to do the job it was designed to do, and it will end up protecting you, especially against a cold, just a common cold that everybody got scared of. But we live in a society of fear. We live in a society where people don't take care of themselves and they expect the government to do everything for them. And that's exactly what COVID was about.
Yeah. Okay. Now, for some of my audience, they want to know what was COVID all about. If you want to give us a brief, let's go back there and see what happened.
Well,
Now, after like 4 or 5 years now, I think we have enough proof to see what happened.
Well, it depends. It depends how you want to see it, because that's something I talk about all the time. As much as I am a conspiracy theorist, I know for a fact that trying to educate the average Canadian on topics that they should know about, like the bills the liberal government is trying to pass right now, will not work if you come at it from a conspiracy theorist standpoint. So we talk about the facts, right? You can go back to COVID and what happened during COVID. What did we learn from COVID? We learned that our government will lock us up for a cold. That's a fact. That is a fact. We know this. You can't debate this. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is a fact. Our government forced people into staying home, and there were actual consequences if you did not respect that. That's a fact. What's another fact that we learned throughout COVID? That our government will freeze your bank account if you oppose them. That's a fact. They did that to many people during the Freedom Convoy. What did we learn as well? That they will arrest you for resisting what they did. And that's what they did to Tamara Litch and Chris Barber. I've had Chris Barber on my show many times, and that's a fact. Doesn't matter how you feel about Chris Barber and Tamara Litch. The fact is that they were arrested and made an example of because they had the audacity to oppose the government. Yet, in a legal decision provided by the Supreme Court of Canada, led by the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedom, they proved that the government used the Emergencies Act illegally and unconstitutionally, yet no consequences have happened to either Trudeau or Chrystia Freeland because they have Crown immunity. So that's another fact that Canadians need to realize is our government are able to break the Constitution with no consequences whatsoever because the Crown will give them immunity. That is another fact. Now, if you want to go down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories and say that COVID was planted, that was a test from the elites that have been indoctrinating us for 100 years to see if we would follow their orders or if we would resist. And if you look at Canada, between 81 to 90% of Canadians receive at least one shot. So we failed. We miserably failed, or we passed, depending how you see it. If you're from the elite side, their indoctrination has worked because 81 to 90% of Canadians did not want to question what they were being told and decided to take it so that they could fucking continue go to the restaurant. That is how idiotic we've become. So you might want to argue with me that it was a planted virus, that it wasn't. Doesn't matter. I'm not even arguing with this with people anymore. All I'm going to tell you is that our government locked us up, told us that it would last 2 weeks. It transformed into, if you don't take a vaccine, we will prevent you from going anywhere except the grocery store and the pharmacy. This is what happened to me. Another fact that just came out from Pfizer is that the government was aware that the vaccines had not been properly tested and they did not know about the side effects. This is another fact. Yet the government coerced individuals, Canadians, to take it, or else they would lose their jobs, or else they couldn't go to the restaurant, or else they couldn't see their families anymore. Those are facts. If you have the audacity to oppress them, they will freeze your bank accounts. That's a fact. If you have the audacity to oppress them, they will arrest you. That's a fact.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's, I don't know, it's joke on us. Like we,
Oh,
like,
100%.
you know, there are two groups of people. They knew what's going on. The East European immigrant, I had a lot of friends, and Iranians, they came from Iran because we lived this totalitarian regime. We knew how control is going to work. We knew how brainwashing is going to impact people. But I agree with you. We felt in every step of the way. And we had Justin Trudeau. Who was Justin Trudeau?
Who was Justin Trudeau? A trust fund baby that was selected because people thought he was good looking. And he comes from a political family. And I would argue that the second worst prime minister in Canadian history was his father. And I'm talking about his Canadian father, not his biological father, the ruler of Cuba, not Castro, like the adopted father that he had here in Canada.
Yeah. I would say he's the worst. He's even worse than his dad, but
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like Pierre Elliott Trudeau and Trudeau are top 3 worst prime minister, and Carney's in there. Those are the three worst that we've had. 2 of them are related, and one of them, Mark Carney, was the economic advisor to Justin Trudeau throughout 2021 until he quit the Liberal Party as the leader. So this is the again, facts. You can want to argue this, but those are facts.
Yeah. So Justin Trudeau turned Canada into a woke state. And you were talking about, before this program begins, about how Montreal is becoming woke and woke every single day. I want to say, yeah, you haven't lived in Vancouver, because Vancouver is so woke that they are coming after their private properties, and I feel like they're not bothered about this. I feel like they don't know the gravity of the problem. So tell me about what do you see in Montreal? Like how woke they are? Like what things changed since this 3-4 years that you haven't been in Montreal?
So the difference is, you're talking about land appropriation in BC. You're talking about legislation that is extremely woke. I'm talking about individuals are extremely woke. So in BC, you're going to have a lot of very woke legislation, but there's a lot of non-woke people in British Columbia. There's a lot of woke people as well, but in Montreal, you look, we're one of the biggest university town in Canada, and as much as the politicians right now are trying to pass laws that would be considered anti-woke laws because they're trying to restrict religious freedom to be celebrated in public, the individuals are very woke because our town is a university town. So you're talking about 18 to 25, 18 to 26 on average. And if you look throughout history and you look through psychology, those are the wokest of the woke. You know, I think it's Churchill that said that if in your 20s you're not a liberal, you have no heart. And if you're in your 40s, if you're not a conservative, you have no head. So basically, people in their early 20s have no life experience. So they will take decisions based on how they feel, based on their emotions. As you grow older, you tend to be you tend to realize what the world is actually about, and you start taking, or at least making, your decisions, hopefully, based on facts, not your emotions, because life has taught you differently. And that's the problem with Montreal, is that it is extremely, extremely woke in the population. And we have a lot of immigrants in Canada. And guess what? They've arrived here specifically over the past 4 years, 5 years, under very liberal laws. So you know why they vote. You know why those people were selected to be in Montreal. Because you can look at a place like Quebec City, for example, which is one of the oldest city in North America. It's very conservative there. They don't know that they're conservatives, but they're so French that they want to keep their culture. What is more conservative than wanting to keep your culture, keep your values? It's just they don't consider themselves to be conservative because there's such a taboo attached to the word conservatives now. And I'm not talking big C conservatives. I'm not talking political party here. I'm talking ideology when I'm referring to liberals and conservatives. So small L, small c, ideology, not parties.
Yes. I haven't been to Montreal,
Mhm.
but I'm a conservative. I'm coming from conservative family, and Vancouver, BC is extremely woke for us.
I believe you.
I mean, I have a 10-year-old son. I'm dealing with all this crap going on in his school every single day. All the
Mhm.
SOGI programs. Like a couple of days ago, they had a theater of a king, and I was so happy. Oh, that's nice. It's going to be one of those Shakespeare's play, and we realized the king is one of the figures that they're accepting all kinds of colors in the rainbow. So this is something. This is our lifestyle, to deal with this crap every single day in BC, Vancouver, and Vancouver as well.
But we got to be careful, though. Let me stop you on this, because
Yeah.
we need to be very careful, because what you said is absolutely true. This is happening throughout Canada. Everywhere you look, that SOGI agenda is being pushed everywhere. But we need to understand that those are consequences. Those are not the root problems. Those are side effects
Mhm.
of the root problems, which is Marxism, which is communism. And that is why Eastern Europeans, this is why guys from Iran, this is why guys that have an understanding of history like I do can see it coming. But we keep on focusing on the side effects. We keep on focusing on the consequences of the root problem and not address the root problem itself. In Canada, we don't have a left versus right problem. We have a politician problem. We have an elite problem. We have
There you
our
go.
leader problem. I was on a podcast yesterday with a guy that considers himself a liberal. I recorded almost 300 episodes of the Political Orphans with a liberal, and I'm a Christian conservative. You think you're conservative? I follow the Bible, bro. So pro-life, 100%. I
Okay.
talk about stuff that the average conservative does not have the balls to address. But the point in the matter is that I'm always open to having conversations with people that disagree with me or people I disagree with, because we don't have a left versus right problem. What we have is a top versus bottom problem, because they are pushing their Marxist agenda on us. And wokeism is just another flavor of Marxism, which when you look at it, it's absolutely brilliant, because Marxism was based on have and have nots, as in monetarily wise. What the rich are the elite, they have money. You, the population, the citizens, the commoners, if you will, don't have money, so you don't have the power. It was based on physical. It was based on something concrete that you could hold in your hand. Wokeism is based on emotion, which can be changed at any given day. It's brilliant. It's so manipulative that it can adapt. The person that pushes, the government that pushes wokeism, can change it on a dime on a daily basis, because they change the formula of what it feels like. And that's the problem with wokeism. But it is the same pattern that's been used to push a communist agenda, the same thing they did in China, the same thing they did in Russia, the same thing Hitler did. The propaganda is always the same. You disconnect from God. It's always the first step. You disconnect the population from God, and you replace God by the government. Second step is you remove men from the family unit. They are the one that will stand up to a corrupt government. So you need to remove them from their children, so that they don't get to teach them about what it is to be a strong man. What do you see today? You look, half, 50% of divorces are initiated by the women. Sorry, let me rephrase that. 50% of couples that are married end up divorced. 90% of those divorces are initiated by women. And in 90% of the cases, women get the children. That's the reality. So the vast majority of men, me included, was raised by a single mother. A mother cannot teach her son how to become a man, in the same way as I cannot teach my daughter how to become a woman. Only a woman can, because guess what? I'm not a fucking woman, and I don't know what it is to be a woman. The same way as a mother is not a man and does not know what it is to be a man. We have a little boy, my wife and I. We fucking understand that there's things that she needs to teach him, like emotional intelligence. All the rest is going to probably be taught by me. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I'm a man and I want him to be a man. So you disconnect the population from God, and you replace it by the government. Remove men from the family unit so that little boys become effeminate. And the third stage is what the trends are always telling you. Oh, trends have been around forever. Yes. When a society's collapsing, people are so fucking confused that they don't know the difference between being a man and a woman. So telling me that trans have always been around is not a good thing. You're basically proving to me that our society is so confused that they don't know the difference between a man and a woman. We live in a society where the patients are running the asylum. This is what we're seeing right now. But if you notice, the rules that we have to live by do not apply to the elites. It's okay for them to do whatever they want and not believe in those things, as long as we are forced to believe it. And that is the problem. Those are the problems that we need to address. Our problems are politicians. That is the problem. And I'm not saying conservatives. I'm not saying liberals. Politicians, all of them are the problem.
Politicians, all of them. And
oh yeah.
Yeah. So there is a big leadership race going on among conservatives in BC, and I was in a debate, and the debate was, I gave it to them. It was much better. It was like all Canadians debate. They're all, oh, I agree with you. You're right. You're very nice. So this time it was a little bit more. It was a little bit more. So I wanted to see debate. I came there. I paid the ticket to just to actually get down to the business. And this time around was better. I gave that to them. But it turned out, I don't want to bring up a name, but they were quite woke a couple of years ago. Do you think they are trustworthy? And
no.
Considering the fact that, no, okay, good.
Ask anybody. They don't need to be Canadians. Ask anybody in the West, like in a Western country, if they trust politicians. Every single one of them will tell you no. Yet we keep on voting for them. This is how ridiculous we've become. I haven't voted in an election in a very long time, and I refuse to participate because my vote does not matter. My
They
vote
cross
does
the
not
floor.
elect. No,
Yeah.
but it doesn't. Oh, see, there you go. See, perfect example. You don't even need to believe in conspiracy theories to say that your vote doesn't matter, that everything's manipulated, that our prime ministers have been selected and never really elected, in order to understand that your vote doesn't matter. In the last election, I can prove to you twice. I can prove to you in the last election that our vote didn't matter, and I can prove to you that it really doesn't matter through floor crossings. In Terrebonne, Quebec, it's a riding right next to where I am. It's literally 10-minute drive from where I am. The Liberals were facing the Bloc Québécois representative. There were about 50 to 60,000 people that voted in that riding. So it's not a small riding. It ended up the Liberals, after a recount, won by one vote. One vote out of 60,000 people, one vote. Then there's a story that came out that started going around on mainstream media where there's this woman that was in Terrebonne, Quebec, that voted in advance. So she received Election Canada's letters that were pre-filled letters. You just put your vote in the envelope, the paperwork that they needed, but the envelope itself is pre-populated with the postal code, with the address, so you don't have to worry about this. Turns out that Election Canada made a mistake on the postal code, and she received her letter after the election was passed, so her vote did not count. And it turns out that at least 20 to 40 people had the same problem. Turns out she voted for the Bloc Québécois, so that would have put them equal. That would have meant that the Liberals and the Bloc Québécois were equal. You needed another election. The Bloc fought it, and the Supreme Court of Canada said, yeah, no. Election Canada, my apologies, said, no, we're not recounting this. This is too much of a problem. We're going to keep it as is. The Bloc had to escalate it to the Supreme Court of Canada in order to get that rectified. So basically, Election Canada told us that your vote did not matter, just like in animal farms. Some votes are more equal than others. And it was okay for the Liberals to win by one vote in a riding that had proof that there was problems with the letters, with the pre-filled letters. Yet Election Canada chose to say, nope, we're not dealing with it. So your vote, Election Canada proved to us that your vote doesn't matter. And then you start talking about floor crossings. We're talking 5 floor crossings in the past 5 months. 4 Conservatives, 1 NDP that was able to move. And this is nothing new, right? This is something that's happened throughout Canada, where politicians are able to walk from one party to the other. The thing that has never happened before in Canada, never in the history of Canada has a government become a majority government, not through election, but through floor walking, through floor crossings. And don't believe the lie that mainstream media is telling you that the last by-elections that happened 2 weeks ago, the 3 by-elections that happened, gave Mark Carney a majority. He already had those 3 ridings. They were already Liberal, and he had a minority government. What's the difference? The 5 floor crossings that gave him a majority. So for the first time in Canadian history, we have a government that is majority because of backroom deals. Just look, just go check the money and the new titles, the new responsibilities that every single one of the floor crossers got. They get upgrades. And you're telling me that this is not corruption, that they weren't giving an incentive to move? Of course they were. Just look. You don't need to believe in conspiracy theories to see that. Just look at the facts. They get an upgrade. They get automatically an upgrade in their responsibilities, or they get money for their ridings. No matter how you look at it, that's corruption. So basically, Canada, you can vote for whoever you want, and they get to move to a different party. And another thing to keep in mind is that a lot of mainstream media is going to tell you that it shouldn't matter because you voted for the person and not the party. But that's bullshit. How many people actually know who they voted for in their riding? They don't. The vast majority of Canadians did not vote for a particular person because they knew who that person was. They voted for the political party they represented because they wanted the prime minister or the leader of that party to become the prime minister. And that's that's a fact. You can't argue that Canadians know who they're really voting for. They're not. They're not aware. They vote for the political party. So for them to have the power to move is ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous.
Yeah, I just you mentioned a good point, and how Mark Carney got installed. He just the liberal
That's why I
leadership
say
break
selected. That's why I say
elected. There
selected.
you go. There
Mhm.
you go. I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy. So we have a prime minister who's got the vote of less than 1% of Canadian people, and then we have all these people, all these MPs. They crossed the floor and they had the audacity to come to TV and talk about and reason what they did and about their beliefs and about their values. That's a joke, man.
But you
That's
but you gotta go even further, because I think I know what you're referring to when it comes to the liberal leadership is the ticket of entry in order to become. Did you ever see the numbers that how much money you need to put down in order to just be considered as
three
it's
hundred thousand something.
it's $200,000 to $300,000.
Yeah,
But here's something that the average Canadian doesn't know. The conservatives are the same. The
yeah.
ticket price is as high for the conservatives. So when I hear people say Pierre Poilievre is a man of the people, go fuck yourself. That guy makes 300 grand a year, has never held a private job in his life, has been in politics for more than 20 years. This is not a man of the people. This is a man that's making money off the people. And I can go down how many times he fucked Canadians and how many times he screwed us. But the point in the matter is that there's no difference in politicians anymore. There's no difference whatsoever. And clearly, Election Canada doesn't care about our votes. And that was proven. I just proved it to you twice that they don't care. So you don't have to believe, like you and I do, that Carney was selected. All you have to look is the facts and say it costs $200,000 to $300,000 in order to try to become a leader of a political party, which means every single regular Canadian, a hardworking Canadian, that their average salary is about $65,000 to $75,000 a year, can never become a political party leader of either the Liberals, the Conservative. It's not a possibility. So you're always going to have to either sell your soul to people that will give you the money, or you will just be a rich guy that don't represent Canadian values, or don't represent Canadian interests.
Interest. There you go. So that's so like I totally agree with you with Pierre Poilievre. I mean, he failed massively. There was an election he had to win, but he lost. I would say he did some intentional job
Yes.
to just bring himself down, maybe because of Trump. It looks like the Uni Party decided that Mark Carney is the right person to do this job at the time being. Um, I don't know why Conservative Party they don't wake up. Look at what Pierre Poilievre delivered so far. Absolutely nothing, and make big changes. I was running. I was a federal candidate for PPC in the last
Mhm.
federal election. So among all these politicians, I found Max uh, just standing by his values. So somebody that I think, because I was homeless, I was politically homeless. There was no
Mhm.
party that I could find that represent me. Then I got to find PPC guys, and they say, "Oh, there you go. There are some people there. They feel like I feel like they're as homeless as I am, and then maybe we can work together." So tell me about political orphans, your organization, and I know there's a. They tell me if there is hope for Canada. What can we do? Let's be constructive. Let's see what we can do.
Before we do, I want to address a couple of things that you said. So, first, you said that it looked like Pierre Poilievre did it on purpose. He 100% did it on purpose. And again, you don't need to believe in conspiracy theories for that. Why would he ever want to be prime minister when he makes over 300 grand a year being the opposition leader? No responsibility whatsoever. He clearly, the conservatives are going to keep him in power because they like him, but he can say whatever he wants and do whatever, as much minimally as he wants, and they still gonna love him. He has the best job in politics. Can you imagine making 300 grand a year, traveling Canada, having expense reports that are in the millions? He has the most expensive expense report in Canadian government. He was twice more than what Trudeau spent as the PM every year. That's Pierre Poilievre. He has the perfect job. And during the campaign, they pretty much, he ran on, prior to the campaign, should I say, he ran on beating Justin Trudeau. They replaced him. They put in Mark Carney. But he had the perfect game plan that he could have copied in order to win the election. Trump in the US. Trump was running against Biden. They removed Biden and they put Kamala Harris instead. He had the same, they were both dominating their opponents, as in Trump was dominating Biden and Poilievre was dominating Trudeau by about 20 points. What's the difference? Trump went on every single platform, podcasts out there, and talked about his agenda. And the number one thing that he did that gave him the election is he had the balls to say that there's only two genders and women can't have penises. Pierre Poilievre, something that Pierre Poilievre does not have the testicles to say. He's never had the courage to say there are only two genders, men and women cannot be men, and neither can men be women. He doesn't even have the balls to say something that is biologically accurate. He didn't have the balls to go on political on political podcasts. He just went on Joe Rogan a month ago when it served no purpose. He didn't even have the balls to call out Mark Carney for all of the bills that he's trying to pass right now to turn Canada into a surveillance state. Yet a year ago, when it could have won him the election, if again you believe that elections actually matter, he didn't do it. So of course it was done on purpose. And I can tell you from knowing people within his party, he told his MPs not to appear on podcasts that could make him look bad. That is a fucking fact.
That's a fact.
So
Absolutely.
so don't give me the, oh, he tried his best. He didn't fucking try. All he did is he sold you the illusion of choice. This is what Pierre Poilievre is. He is the illusion that there's such a thing as the liberals and the conservatives. Now, you talked about why do the conservatives keep on voting for him? Because first, they're not conservatives. The other day, I was watching a video from Jasmine Lane, one of the biggest proponents of the Conservative Party in Canada, and she admits in an interview that the conservatives are basically liberals. I've been saying this for years. They are liberals. There's nothing conservative about the Conservative Party. And even people like her are starting to say it out loud. I've been saying this for years, that our whole political system, our whole political parties, the Overton window, as we call it, is all to the left. All to the left. Everything. The conservatives are left of center liberals, as in left party. Instead of being woke, they're not as woke as the liberals, but they're more left than center people like Maxime Bernier is. And that brings you back to Maxime Bernier. I like his platform. I have a lot of friends that ran for his party, but Maxime Bernier will never become, and I've had him on my show, I've met him in real life, and I supported him when he tried to become the conservative leader against Andrew Scheer in like 2017. I met him right here in Montreal. I went to one of his speeches, and the same problem, and unfortunately for Maxime Bernier, he is a career politician, which I absolutely dislike. I do not like career politicians, and he's one of them. I think that political service should cost you something. If you're regular, it should be a regular person that that loves his country so much or love his community so much that he will sacrifice in order to become involved in politics. You shouldn't be able to get rich from politics. You shouldn't be able to get powerful from politics. It should be a service that you do because nobody else is stepping up.
I love
so
that.
As much as I love the ideology of the PPC, unfortunately, their leader is still a lifelong politician, or a career politician, as we call them. And I don't have anything personal against Maxime Bernier. Like I said, I've had him on my show many times, and I got to tell you that every time I've had him on my show, I did not have to tell him what we were going to talk about. He just fucking showed up. I got to give him that. He will take whatever questions at any given time. He doesn't need to be prepped. All the respect to him for that. He did stand up for COVID. During COVID, he stood up against COVID. He never changed his narrative like Pierre Poilievre did and took advantage of the Freedom Convoy. Maxime was true from the get-go, spoke against it, and spoke against it throughout. So if I had to choose a politician, he is the one that I would choose the most on the federal level. But again, I still have a problem with
people making money, making a living out of being
a very good living. Like, let's not just say a living. They're making very good money doing it. And I like the ideology of his party, but he will never be elected for that party. They, in my opinion, at least, they need a new leader that will be not a career politician, that will be somebody that wants to just do the right thing for Canada. And I'm not saying that's not what Max is doing. All I'm saying, he's not the right man for the job, if you ask me. If he hasn't been able to move the needle in almost 10 years, maybe it's time for somebody else, because the ideology of the PPC, I have to agree with.
There you go. Like one thing, good thing you mentioned, and I think a lot of Canadians, they don't want to mention that. Like when like as an Iranian Canadian, to me, being nationalist, it means you have love for your country, you have love for your community, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when I go to Canadians' spaces, whoa, I don't want to talk about nationalism. Oh, that's a bad word. They just feel like when you say nationalism, then you are a Nazi, you're a racist. Somehow this idea has been sold to a lot of Canadians. And being nationalist means you have a lot of love for your country, you have a lot of love for your community, and you want to make things better. You want to create for your country. You want to sacrifice for your country. So this is absolutely crazy. When I speak with Canadians, a lot of them, they call themselves conservative, say, whoa, our party is not nationalist. Don't ever mention that. What do you say to them?
But it's true. Their party's not nationalist at all. What's the so just look at the last election. What was the difference between the approach of Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre? Did Pierre Poilievre not go to all the Sikh parties or all the Sikh representatives, wear their headbands and acted the same way as Trudeau did, the same way as Mark Carney did? He kissed the ring. Same thing with the Muslim community. He did the same thing. But did he go around in Christian churches and started attending service like a good Christian? No, because he knows that people will vote for him no matter what, because he sells the illusion of choice. But he kissed the ring just like Carney did, just like Trudeau did. Poilievre is not going around saying that we need remigration. He's not saying that over the past 5 years we've been invaded by mass immigration and we need to not only put a stop to it, but review our whole immigration system. Maybe take 5 to 10 years to review our whole immigration system and to identify all the people that came in here over the past 5 years that took advantage of a system that are not contributing, and send them back from wherever they came from. You cannot, one fact that the average Canadian does not understand is that you cannot be a social state, as in offer social services to people that pay for them, like you see in Canada, and have open borders at the same time. You can be either. You can either be a social country with very close borders because you understand that your population are paying for social services so that every Canadian can take advantage of it, or you are not a social country and you have open borders because you know that people have to come here with money if they want to survive. We have a social state with open borders. So what do you think happens? People that come from third world country, like 33% of our immigration comes from India, a third world country with no war, so they have no reasons to be here. Because your country's poor is not a good reasons to be in Canada. Yet they immigrate here either through the asylum claim that we have 350,000 claim in the system right now, or they just show up as a visitor. It's insane the way all the holes that we have in our immigration. But the point is that they get here, they can take advantage of our services while never having to contribute. This is insane to me. It's
This is
absolutely
insane to
insane.
me too.
20 years ago, my sister dated a guy from France.
Mhm.
And in order for him to come here, not only did he have to prove that he had money, and when I said, did I say 10? Because I meant like mostly 20 years because it's been a while. But he had to prove that he had money. And if he ran out of money, my sister was responsible for him for at least a year to 2 years. So even though they split up, he was in Canada, my sister was still monetarily responsible for him because as an immigrant, he couldn't take advantage of our social services. Same thing as a guy I studied with in my early 20s, came from Africa. He had to have the money to cover all of his expenses when he was in Canada. If he was here for a 2-year program, he had to have enough money in a bank account to prove that he could sustain himself for 2 years. Now they don't have those policies anymore. Not only that, but they're allowed to work here. An international student can come to Canada, request a working permit, a work permit, and occupy all the jobs that our youth are normally using to build experience. We have a 13.8% unemployment rate in our youth right now. You know, people go to a Tim Hortons near you. That's not Tim Hortons anymore. It's Indian factories now. Yet, I dropped out of high school. I was 15 years old. I sold drugs. I was a drug addict, a drug dealer, and I supported my habit by selling drugs. I was not a good dude. I went back to my studies. I went back to school in my 20s. What was the only job a next drug addict, drug dealer could get? Tim Hortons. I literally paid my studies and made money by working at Tim Hortons on the weekend making donuts. Now try to have that job. You couldn't be. My co-host of the Political Orphans, his son is 17 years old. He explained on one of the show how many times he took his son in all the lower end type of jobs, couldn't get hired anywhere because he wasn't the right color. And we're talking Nova Scotia here. We're not even talking urban centers like Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver. We're talking the Maritimes. That was the same case over there. And again, that might sound racist for a lot of people, but it's not. It's a fact. I have no problems. I have no problems with immigrants like you. Clearly, you're an immigrant. Clearly.
I'm an immigrant. Let me tell you my story.
What I'm saying is I don't have a problem with immigration.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want good immigration. I want immigrants to come here and actually make Canada better, not turning it into a fucking third world country.
Yeah. Because I used to get that a lot. When I was running as a PPC candidate, a lot of people like green, lefty, woke, they gave me a call, say, yo, you with such thick accent, how can you be racist? I was like, dude, we are not racist. We are just laying out the facts. And I personally came here as PhD student, mechatronics, and because I was grad students, after almost 5 years, I was able to get my permanent residency. So I had to go through a study permit, work permit, post-graduation work permit, all this shit. And so it took me 8, and after that I had to work and I had to show my income and show I'm paying the tax. And after 8 years, I was able to get my Canadian passport. I became Iranian Canadian citizen. So, and then it's not, when I look at these people, they just cross the border, they come here illegally, and they somehow go through this. After 6 months, they get their PR, and after 2-3 years, they get their passport. I say, dude, it's not fair. It's just crazy. And you don't contribute at all. Like, what are you doing after all these years here?
And again, that's a fact. You can literally come here as a visitor right now. As soon as you hit Canadian soil, you apply for asylum seeker. Right now, the asylum seeker claim, as per our immigration minister, is anywhere from 4 to 6 years. That's the process. They have over 350,000 applicants right now waiting. And there are ways to make it last, because you can say, oh, well, the decision wasn't right, so you can appeal those decisions. It's insane. 4 to 6 years. Guess who's responsible for those people during those times? That's us, but that's a fact. You can cross illegally, like you said. You can come from the US and come illegally. You can come here as a visitor. You can come here as a
Fake a
student.
student. Fake a
100%.
student.
You can come here as a student, never show up to class, and then apply for asylum seeker. We have the same government that's told us that anywhere between 500,000 to over 2 million people are illegally in Canada right now. They lost track. They asked them politely to leave, but they never left, and they're not enforcing it. They're just going to let them stay here. And we have we have provincial leaders that allow for services provided to illegals. Because that's another, what's the term for this? There's a term that describes cities that they will continue giving services, social services, to illegal individuals. They will never refuse. I just can't remember off the top of my head right now what the name is. But our systems are so broken, but at the same time, they're side effects of the real problem that is leadership. Our real problem in Canada is leadership problems. It's not just policies, it's leadership. The people that are in power are not the people that care for Canada. And you want to go back to earlier, the political orphans movement that Payman Iskari and I have started. It's simple, man. Unfortunately for Canadians, and that's the hard reality that they're going to need to understand, is it's going to get worse before it gets better. It's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. There's no way around it. The average Canadian right now is not hurting enough in order to realize that there's really a problem going on right now. They're starting to feel it. Wait till July 1st. Wait till Kuzma doesn't get renewed, and then we start seeing tariffs on 85% or 100% of our exports, not just 15%, and 2 to 3 million jobs will be at risk because they're dependent on our free trade agreement. Then you're going to start seeing Canadians wake up. But we need to educate Canadians out there just the way that we're doing right now, just the way that I do every day on my show, by just telling you what the mainstream media wants you to believe and then telling you what you should know and connect the dots to what's actually happening. But it starts with education. Unfortunately, it's going to get worse, but we need to educate the average Canadian. We need to build an organization that will have the solutions by the time the average Canadian wakes up to what's going on, because they're going to be looking for solutions. And we need to have an organization out there that will have those solutions, that will have the leaders in place. Because one thing we need to understand, we don't need more politicians. We really don't need politicians. They're the problem. They're not the solution. What we need is leaders on the community level, just like you did when you ran for the PPC. At the end of the day, you wanted to do the right thing for your community, so you align with a party that made the most sense to you. But at the end of the day, we don't change Canada federally. It's too big of a problem. We change it one community at a time. We need to install leaders. Install, that sounds like it's a bad word, but we need to encourage people locally to do the right thing for their community. Become mayor, run for public office, which is just your district school board. Know those people, know who you're talking to. Go out there and speak to people. On Saturday, you have a small mall where you know a bunch of people are there. Sit down like Charlie Kirk did. I did this throughout the US and throughout Canada. I'd walk around with a microphone and a board, and I had a question on it. My buddy would be there with my camera, and he would follow me around, and I would have conversation with average individual. Agree with you, don't disagree with you, doesn't matter. We had those conversations. Imagine if we put a leader in every single community throughout Canada that that's actually educating people in their community, like he's running for a campaign. But he's not running for a campaign. All he wants is to educate people. But he knocks on door and saying, hey, did you know about Bill C-22 and the danger of Bill C-22? Goes to the mall and just say, hey guys, have you ever heard of Bill C-22? No? Please sit down. Let's have a discussion. I'll explain to you what it is. Imagine that we had thousands of Canadians doing that in their community every day or every week, how we could change Canada one community at a time. It's just, it needs to get done. We need to have the average Canadian needs to step up. We don't need politicians. We need regular, hardworking Canadians to say, enough, time to stop complaining. Let's start leading and do the right thing for my community by educating them. It's really that simple. There's no other way around. It's going to take time. Unfortunately, it's going to take time.
So realistically, don't you think it's a bit too late now? Like Alberta is.
It's never too late, brother.
It's
never too late. It's never too late. You know, one of my buddies, let me say this. I don't say this often because I'm a Christian, but I try not to preach to people.
Mhm.
But a couple of years, but I spent a lot of time in the south of the US, like Texas, Alabama, North Carolina, Arizona, the Bible Belt, if you will, right? And one of my buddies out of Alberta is a very big Christian. Like he's been throughout the world preaching the gospel. Like he is a massive, massive Christian. And one day I was at his place, we're sitting outside, I'm smoking a cigar, and I'm kind of bummed out because creating content the way I do and getting all the hate and all the crap that goes with it, it gets a toll on you. Every now and then I really have to take a couple days off my social media, leave my phone alone just to recuperate, right? And it was one of those days, I'm just sitting outside with him, I'm having a drink, I'm smoking a cigar, and he's like, you know, Nico, your job is not to save the world. It's not to save the Titanic from sinking because it's going to sink. Your job is to put as many people on lifeboats as possible. That's your job.
Good
And
job.
that's the truth. I cannot change the world from collapsing because if you believe in the Bible, it's pretty clear that the world's going to go to shit and then Jesus is going to make a comeback and then save us all. That's what I can't save the world. I just can't. But I can try to make it better by giving people the information that they need to make their community better. You don't need to be a Christian to understand that that's the only way forward. But like I said earlier, it's going to get worse before it gets better because the average Canadian is not hurting. So is it too late? It's never too late. But the longer you wait, the harder the road back. Because never forget, you can vote communism in, but you'll have to fight to get it out. And the longer you wait, the harder it becomes. But it's never too late, because if it is too late, why are you still in Canada? Why are you still here? Leave the country. But unfortunately for you, one thing that I know from traveling is that there's no place to hide right now. This is happening throughout the West. Europe as a whole is done. The US is going through the same thing as Canada's going through and has been going through for as long as Canada has. So where are you gonna run? There's no place to run. So you might as well stay in, try to turn your country into a better place. What else are you gonna do?
What else are you gonna do? You've got to fight back. There you go.
I want to be careful when you use the word fight back, and you'll see that I don't use it because fight often is associated with violence. And I'm not proning, I don't prone violence the way that people would prone it, because that's a war you can't win one-on-one.
Absolutely.
We're not the US. Like in the US, if they choose to rise against their government, the government's in trouble because they have a lot of fucking guns in the US, a lot of fucking guns, and people know how to use them. There's a good reason why most military men come from the South, because those guys are proud to be Americans. But we don't have that in Canada. We don't have that instinct to be patriotic, like you were saying earlier. But there's ways to save Canada one community at a time, and that's what we need to do. And it starts with education.
Okay, that's great. Tell me about the Political Orphans organization. Introduce it to us.
That's basically what I've been talking about right now. I just didn't name it as the Political Orphans. I'm just saying that the Political Orphans is all about creating education first and foremost, and that's what I do on my show every day now. I
Amazing.
literally take complicated concepts and I attach them to, I connect the dots for people so that they understand what's actually going on. And then half my show, I take conversation, I interact with the audience. I will have conversation, I will read their comments and interact with them directly. I was able to crowdfund the Rodecaster Pro 2, which is one of the nicest piece of equipment if you're in podcasting. But one of the things that it does is that there is an integration for a Call Me app. So starting at the beginning of next month, I will do like they do on AM radio, and I will have my audience call in. If you want to call in, there will be a telephone number or an app that you can, like a link that you can click on that will connect directly to my Rodecaster, and I'll be able to bring them online in order to talk,
That's
to get
awesome.
their comments, to get their conversations, because all of my shows are live. Everything I do is live. I interact with dozens, if not hundreds of comments on every single show, because I get anywhere from 500 to a couple thousand comments every single show. So I interact with people directly. I do what 99.9% of content creators out there don't have the balls to do. I want to talk to people. That's the whole point. I want to agree. I want to be able to have conversations with people I disagree with or that disagree with me. That shouldn't stop us from having a conversation. The fact that we disagree, that should force us to have those conversations. And that's what I'm all about. To be able to have those conversations, this is where you start. This is where you identify leaders, and those leaders start leading their community. That's what the movement is all about. It's really not complicated. It just needs to be done well and organized. This is what we do not have as patriotic Canadians. We are not organized. But if you look at the woke individuals in Canada, they're extremely organized. You look at their talking points, they're always the same. Every time there's something going on, they always say the same thing, no matter the channel, no matter the actual social media platform. The message is always the same, because behind the scene, they're extremely organized. We don't have that on the more conservative side or the more patriotic side or the political orphan side. We don't have this organization, and that's what Payman and I are doing. We want to build the organization that people can align with, and then once they know how to properly become a leader, they lead their own community. I'm not there to tell them how to lead their community. I'm just there to arm them with the knowledge that they need, the skills that they need to go out there and debate people, talk to their community, knock on doors and talk about bills, so that the average individuals actually are aware of what our government is doing. This is all we're doing. We're just training the next generation of leader to lead their community how they see fit. A community in Alberta is different from a community in BC, is different from a community in Ontario and in Quebec. I'm not there to tell them how they should lead that community. You live there. Who better to know? Who better to care?
Absolutely. We can use a lot of that at least in BC. In provincial
Everywhere.
level, everywhere. We can use a lot
Everywhere
of
in
that.
Canada.
That we had. That's the biggest problem here.
Mm-hmm.
Nico, we had a 1 hour show together. I don't usually go exceed more than 1 hour because I want my audience to be able to watch. I give you 2 minutes. Say something to them. A lot of Iranian Canadians is going to watch my show. I'm going to share it on Telegram, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. So I'm going to cut this 2 minutes, particularly.
I don't need that long. If you have a lot of Iranians on your audience, I will tell you that, and I'll speak to you directly. I wish you would stand up for Canada the way you guys are standing up for Iran, that is half a world away, where you have no power to change anything anymore. Why is it that people support Iran the way that they did? We saw protests with hundreds of thousands of people showing up. It's great. Nothing against it. I'm not saying that was a bad thing, but where the fuck are you people to be complaining about Bill C2, C8, C9, C12, C16, C22, C25, the new C63, the social media bans, the gun grab that's happening right fucking here in your country? Why are you are you out there protesting for what's happening in Iran than turn your back and not protest for your fucking country where you live? That's the question.
I can give you one short answer. They
No, it's
care
been
a
2
li-
minutes.
2
Sorry.
minutes. No,
All right.
but the thing is, they need to get. They don't get enough information. There is one media, CBC.
Mhm.
So they've been like all this information that they had to receive is blocked. So somehow that's a responsibility under I see on my
That's
shoulder.
laziness, brother.
I
That's
have
laziness.
to. That's laziness. No complaint, no excuse, no excuse. But I need to send a message across. People like me, we need to talk a bit more in this community.
You need to become a leader in your community, huh? That sounds like pretty much what I've been saying for the past hour.
There you go.
Interesting.
That's what I'm trying to do.
There you have it, man.
There you have it. It was my pleasure speaking with you. I hope you come to my show again, future.
Anytime, man. Anytime. I really enjoyed it, man. So anytime.
Absolutely. Thank you, man. Have a great day.
Yep. Bye.
Cheers, man. Bye.
با سر همبندی حق بازی یه چند وقتی انسان میتواند یه کاری رو پیش ببرد، ولی این کار دائمی نمیتواند باشد. چنته هر کسی که تو خالی باشد بالاخره معلوم میشه.